This meeting is now started and being recorded. Because this is the reorganizational meeting, I will open it up and call it to order. This meeting is being recorded by Greenfield Community Energy and Technology. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. There's only one participant, me, so no one else. If they are, they're being very sneaky about it. We will first vote for the chair, then the vice chair, and then secretary. So I open the floor for nominations for chair.
Oof. I nominate Tim Farrell since he's the only person who knows Robert's Rules of Order.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, only commissioners vote, obviously. So please vote by all those in favor.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Tim,
Okay.
you are now the chair and you take over the meeting.
Do we have a nomination for vice chair? Who's the vice chair now?
Oh,
Jen.
I nominate Jen.
Thanks.
Are there any other nominations? None? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Now, technically, we don't have a secretary, technically, because we haven't voted on one.
Right, we're all leaving if you don't vote.
Yeah. So do we have a nomination for secretary?
I nominate Kathy.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well, that was too quick.
Oh, did I forget to ask if we were going to
If she didn't do it right away, they were going to send you out.
Oh.
I don't think I have a choice.
Okay.
I hope you got the revised minutes. They're here. I got my notes mixed up because I can't take notes and do the meeting at the same time.
Yeah.
So, the revised ones are correct.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes? Any, seconded, any changes, additions, subtractions? Nothing, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment, we have no public?
No.
So we'll open the public hearing at 6:22 and we'll close it at 6:22. Well, these are the minutes, whatever time it is now, 6:05. Okay, so we have new business communication plan discussion. Right, sorry.
Like, did you need to fix yourself out of it?
Well, I was hoping to, but I don't think I can do.
This was just going to be a discussion. You guys had asked for some time to discuss. So, I mean, at this point, we are in the process of getting some inexpensive new software. The current version of the website is pretty difficult to use, and we're actually working internally with customer service to just make it easier to find things on the website, to make it easier to update. It's just harder than it should be at the moment. We do not have much of a Facebook presence. I would like to hear people's thoughts on that. I will say, we have mostly turned off comments when we post because it's the same small group of people who troll everything. So I can't say I'm hugely in favor of expanding our Facebook presence. We talk about specifics in terms of outreach. We just talked about a Weldon meeting and getting with Domenica to make sure that we're in a point where we can do that. But I think you have a sense of what we're doing now. My sense was you guys were
Yeah,
gonna
so,
talk about
I had sent that email about possibly doing my turn, or, even if it was not, on my turn, and it was something more prevalent, like a half-page ad in the recorder that, you know, showing basically what a my turn is, but we control it when it gets in. We know that it gets in. We know it doesn't get changed, cut, or anything like that from anyone at the recorder, because we paid for it. But still have the same, talking about all those things that we see on Facebook or just here in the public, like, why isn't it in this part of Greenfield? Why didn't you do this? Why haven't you done this? And rather than reacting to it, kind of laying it out there, because, you know, I've kind of felt like it would have been nice to have the recorder do a story on all the good things that GCET has been able to accomplish running an internet company from scratch to starting an internet, but that hasn't happened, and I don't expect it to. So, you know, kind of controlling that narrative and basically writing what would be a my turn, but you're not, you're not, there's no stipulations on how many words it can be or when it's going to get in or what day it's going to be in, because there are days that are read more than other days. That type of thing. So that's kind of where I was.
I feel like we have the basis for that because you did the kind of FAQ document when we were in a lot of the back and forth with the counselors and mayor and stuff. So that like is kind of a lot of the points that I think you're talking about.
Yep.
I want to say that I really liked that you had a little list, and I thought it made perfect sense. And so if we could, and I didn't print them out, unfortunately, but thank you, Kathy. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of contention. So that thinking about addressing the issues up front, factually, people that I talk to are not watching the YouTube.
No.
They have no idea about what previous meetings. They don't even show up for the current ones.
Town council meetings.
And they're right. And so they're just out of the loop. And so they go a little crazy because I never responded on Facebook. It's like, oh my God, the rates are going up. Oh my gosh, I don't understand. So if we could just try to clear up some of the basic confusion in this meeting, if we don't do it in this meeting, then maybe a subcommittee. And then, but what I want to say also is, and then I'll be quiet, but I thought also we were going to try to put something clear as a bell on our website. If they could do that, if they could get on there and say, oh, so because that contentious stuff makes me nauseous about everything in Greenfield, not just GCET. So it's our job, I feel, to clarify.
And when people do hear it, just like counselors, when they hear it and they say, oh, I didn't know that. And, that could go for pretty much everything with government. And that's not a Greenfield government thing. That's just in general. But of either, the combination of something like that. And then as the website gets, changes there, frequently asked questions. I know, hey, we know that we're going to be possibly looking for a bond. And that would be voted by the council. Everybody who doesn't have GCET will think that they're paying for that, even though we've said over and over and over and over and over, the fee, user fees paid for it. Right. That will get missed, and the recorder won't write it because that's just the way it works. So those types of things would be important to kind of get that out there. I tell people who live, in North Greenfield, where I live, listen, we want to be in every house there is. There's no reason for us not to be, other than there are many reasons, none of which are ours. Why we're not. Yeah. So trying to address those things. So I don't know.
I was just going to ask you what you say, that things that people find contentious that they talk to you about. Can you list those out for us?
Well,
probably all those things that
right. Yeah, I mean, ARPA, why is it allowable use and how has it been used? Reminding people that everybody's supposed to have known. To me, it's just an education thing anyway.
Sure. Okay.
It would take 5 years for GCET to get to profitability stage, right? The percentage of households who can already access, like that's what it is. Yeah. And because I have said, just call the office. Right. You got the phone number. call them up, speak with anybody over here,
Sure.
get your questions, and they don't. They just want to complain.
Right.
And they feel like they're not in the know. Well, we can only do so much, but we can do a better job of pointing them places
Right,
so
we
they
can
are in
always
the
do
know. Yeah, because I think people in general like to complain and they're not solving a problem.
Right.
They're part of the problem or they're not, or we're the problem and we haven't explained it enough. Because I'm tired of saying, get on YouTube to
Watch.
people, right?
And it probably took decades. Of course, we weren't here and there was no social media, but decades for people to understand that live in North Greenfield, using that as an example again. You don't have sewer.
Right.
You're never gonna have sewer. You don't pay for it either.
Right.
It's the same thing with GCET.
Right.
You don't have it, you're not paying for it. But we did, well, you voted for that. And actually you only paid for it until GCET was profitable and now we pay it. The users pay it.
And I think when we talk about how many people are covered, it is important to be really clear that we really are no one would even think of saying, I'm building a new building, and if you want me to take Greenfield water, you have to pay for all the pipes in my building. But that's exactly what people say about GCET. Well, you should just do it. Like, no other infrastructure does that or ever has. And in fact, we use grants at places like the Weldon. And if we can find grants to do that, of course we will. And we'll build out a network in the Weldon that we own because it has to be owned by us. But it isn't common practice to say, well, it's your job to wire up all these buildings. And we also need to tell people that there are private building owners, because these are private buildings, who have been very clear with us, mostly to Fern, that they do not want us there. And I keep hearing, how come you're not in the mill house? It's not for lack of asking and getting in touch. They've said, no, we don't want you. And there is no, municipal security badge that I can flash and say, we're coming that way, because it's their building. And if they don't want it, we can't go in.
And I have a question about that because I'm in touch with two people in Berkshire Apartments, okay?
Right.
So I tried to reach one this afternoon, he'll probably call me back tomorrow. So say the manager says no. Say you have a manager, and this is not necessarily that place. Say you have a manager, they don't answer phone calls, they don't do email, they're not interested.
Mhm.
Does it make sense for them to try to go to Joe Comerford, to try to go to some other people and say, could you put a little pressure on if you're underserved or unserved or whatever it might be,
Right.
and they're like constantly being told no, maybe outside forces, like we had called in
Sure.
Senator Markey, remember?
Mhm.
So there might be somebody else besides us, besides the people living there, but somebody has to start somewhere. And I think it's a customer service thing to say, we'd like to help you. Right now, our hands are tied. And then it's up to us to possibly advocate some way or shape or another, unless Joe Conford says, I'm sorry, that's not my purview, in which case, forget it.
Right. I think we can point people in that direction because people can always advocate for themselves. And it's perfectly appropriate for us to say, hey, you could contact your local representative, or you could contact your tenants association or whatever they happen to have. I think going much beyond that is something I would be a little uncomfortable with, but we can say, go talk to them, because there are certain, you brought up the Berkshire Apartments. It's a little bit like the Weldon in that there are no chases in that building. There's no way to get through. The walls are very thick. And it's just a building that is, I've said it for a long time now, buildings like that are about 30 times as expensive as more, traditional residential buildings like duplexes. And it is not, there's a great program called Residensity that everyone should go look at. If you look at where people live and if you look at where different socioeconomic strata lives, even at its most generous interpretation, only about 13 to 18% of housing in Greenfield is in buildings like that, is in buildings like the Weldon. The overwhelming majority of people live at different socioeconomics. What we have here in town is a lot of duplexes and a lot of triplexes, 1 to 4, right? There are places like Oak Courts, which we cover. There are places like Elm Terrace, which we cover. We don't cover Greenfield Towers, for example, because they've said no. They've said you have to pay for everything if you want to come in here. We don't cover the Mill House. It's yeah, it's the high rise. Yeah,
High-rise?
Green Acres. Yeah, its name is actually Greenfield.
So they don't want it either, or they're.
They're fine, but if we pay for everything.
Well, so everybody is unique too. So
Yeah.
at Berkshire Apartments, I mean, if anybody wants to call from Berkshire Apartments, we can have a conversation about what we've done. Their management is happy to work with us. So, but again, it goes down to cost. It also, the residential retrofit, when that came about, I contacted them and I said, this would be a great opportunity for you to get fiber into your building for free. We talked about it. They didn't think that their building qualified. Based on the socioeconomic
Right.
status of everybody that lived there, right? So with grants, there is different ones have different stipulations, so they couldn't qualify for that. So somebody does need to go in there and upgrade infrastructure or put new infrastructure. It costs a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
We looked at their conduits. There is no conduits. Literally, there's direct burial underneath that big, huge brick building. So getting into that building alone is expensive, and then building out in that building is even more expensive.
I
So
just had,
So
by coincidence, somebody from Berkshire Apartments talked to me today, and I said pretty much that.
Yeah.
Can we just, this is a good conversation, but as far as the new communication,
yeah, we're sidetracking.
do we want to do something as far as writing something up
Sure.
for publication to be determined?
I do, because I don't
Yeah.
trust of my turn. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you got a connection with getting stuff in there on a steady basis. And you know, even this article and some of this stuff, I
Yeah.
think I am in favor of
I would,
something that we design, that we
well, I'd like
count
to
on.
not give them the money. I'd
Yeah.
rather do that
being in
and
the
have it,
order.
I'd rather do that than have it.
Choose a half page these days.
I haven't bought one in a while, and I've never bought one for my business, but the last time was like $800, but it could be 800 to
Yeah, a
$1,000.
lot of people don't even read it.
That I was gonna say, they do e-edition more than they actually do the paper. So
Yeah, they're not
I don't,
even-
how many people are you actually
Well, if you read,
reaching?
I mean, if I read the paper, I read it on my phone, but I
Right.
read it like it looks like the paper, so I see the ads.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, they don't think that's,
Because if you read it just the other way, you get it the next day. Other than your 2 free articles.
No, I mean, I have access to it as well, but I don't read the whole thing. I skim.
There's no perfect way, other than
No.
a mailer to 10,000 households.
I mean, we could submit it as a my turn and publish it as submitted on our website, on Facebook,
Yeah.
and share it.
Yeah.
And be like, they'll print what they print.
Good.
And then if we don't like that, we could take out an ad, see what
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah, we can
But I
start
mean,
that
like,
way.
That's,
I am
Yeah.
happy to try to synthesize what I hear tonight and get a rough draft.
Yeah, why don't we
And
do
then
that?
my
Let's
other
start there.
question was what people think is appropriate timing. Communication.
Before, the capital budget,
Well, when is that?
April.
April usually.
Okay, so soonish. Okay, so in March.
Next February or March.
But with a my turn, you could write it and it could be weeks before it gets in too, depending
I
on
understand.
how many they've got.
Yep.
What else is?
But a clarification of what we do and who we are is different than an advertisement in my head. Like that's two different.
Yeah, no, I'm saying only using ad because that's paying for it like it's an ad, but
Okay.
you know, just like when, you know, you see people that will take a full page ads in the New York Times, but it's not really in it. It's not promoting us as far as like, hey, come check us out.
Here's what I would say. You guys can't have a group email talk about
No.
topics you think are appropriate, but each of you can send to me what you think the most important topics are on your own. I can put them together and put them in a rough draft that I showed to Tim.
Yeah.
And I really want to encourage you all to do that because as
There's
with
lots of-
everything, there's 5 of you, you're probably not gonna be perfectly in lockstep with what you think is the most important. It's good that that's true, but I'd like to hear from each of you. Doesn't have to be long. We kind of have an understanding of it. If you just indicate areas that you think are the most important for you guys, that you think needs to be addressed, or you think is a particular issue, please just write that to me so I can take that into account when I'm putting together.
Yeah.
You've already received a Google.
Yes. Yeah, some of you have already done it.
No, at this
Yeah.
moment, but I mean, like,
Oh.
I think, yeah, however, I think I think it would be good if there was a way for us to socialize a draft, maybe
Well,
if it's possible by our next meeting. so
we'd
that
have
we
to
can
bring it
just-
to our next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that'd
could
be
do that.
great, and then everybody kind of look at that, and be like, this isn't really quite capturing the spirit or whatever, so
Great.
if that's a reasonable goal to set for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And the next meeting is so much soon.
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks away.
Oh,
So
Sorry.
darn.
it's okay. That's fine.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
So we can go back to other things we wanted to be talking about. Was there anything else on the Berkshire Apartments or why, or?
No, I think you can talk. What would help me most is not me talking to you. It's you talking to me now about what you think the tone, the tenor, the focus of that kind of communication would be. If you think there's anything beyond a my turn, we are a small group and we don't have a huge budget for it, but we have some. You talked about, direct mail out, or you did. We actually do a fair amount of that, or it's really just a marketing, but we could do an
Mhm.
informational mailing to people too. We wouldn't do it. There's companies we would work with to go do it.
Go to our customers.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I think that's the most powerful constituency to reach. I mean, there's gonna be people who are always gonna be upset if they don't have it, and then they'll find reasons to be mad about it. But I think if we can make sure that everybody who has it has a firm understanding, that's
Mhm.
very powerful. And I think, I mean, I was just jotting down in this stuff, some of the things, I think it's a great point to really start with an introduction of like, what is this thing? Who are
Yeah.
they? You know,
Yeah.
this is your internet. And so, and then kind of going on to, it depends how much we want to get into the weeds on things, but I think, at the risk of exhausting people, I think more information, is better. So,
Okay.
and then I think probably, then like providing some tools for people to learn more. Not trying to be totally exhaustive, but just saying like you can look on GCTV and meetings are recorded and you can, not saying that
Mhm.
that's people have to do that, but
But they
if
could.
people want more, right?
Right. So you do know under board meeting minutes and agendas, there's now up links to it's in a grid for every month. And you can click on a link that will take you directly to the video, that will take you directly to the agenda. Now that you've approved the minutes for December, tomorrow I will put those up too. So for the last year or so, we will have every agenda, every set of minutes and a video. I think we started it was either April or May. I can't remember when we first started doing it.
Yeah.
Those are available on the website too. We can talk about featuring them more in a
Great.
different way too. But that is something that we have been doing.
Can I ask before we move on, Greenfield Gardens, does that down the pike, another grant? Because MPI.
It would be
the whole
another
point of
grant.
MPI is affordability and connectivity.
Right. So Greenfield Gardens is all underground.
Right, granted.
They don't own their conduit. If conduit is put in by Verizon or Comcast or other people, we can't use it unless we are able, with some people, we were able to negotiate passage. It's expensive and it is not always workable. So, and the issue with Greenfield Gardens is not only is it underground, a lot of it's underneath blacktop. And if you have to tear up blacktop to put your own in, it gets just tremendously expensive.
We
So,
had a grant and then the grant expired. We had some kind of funding, because I was at that meeting, and then they hit the grant and they couldn't do this and they couldn't do that, and
no, that was Leiden Woods, not
was that
Greenfield Gardens.
Leidenwood?
Right,
Okay.
that was Leidenwoods.
Is that correct
Yes,
too?
We
Is that
did
on the
have
town?
CD, yes, it is, and it's the same situation. Generally speaking, when projects like that are developed, the developers don't want to pay for the conduit. So they say, come in and place conduit, and people do, because then they can deny other people use of it. So, and once things like that are sealed up, Leiden Woods in particular was difficult because it's literally built on a rock shelf. You don't go down more than a couple of inches and you hit rock. So that would be just astronomically expensive to try to, dig through. You would literally need heavy machinery, and you'd have to open up a trench all the way down that driveway, all the way around all of those buildings. So that's a really difficult place to get to because it's fairly remote, and every bit of that going out, you would be chiseling into rock to lay.
And there
So
was a problem in the polls, correct? In the past.
yes, the poles are not, because they're decorative light posts. They're not utility poles. They're not strong enough to hold up the radios. We would have been able to go down, but it just, the tolerances weren't, it wouldn't be safe. So it's a particularly difficult place to get to for us.
Thanks.
You have the budget after executive session. Is there a reason?
We're going to review the budget in executive session, but votes for approval of budgets
Must be public.
must
right?
be public.
Yeah.
Right, but I want to go into detail in the executive session. I think a point Fern makes often, which is true, is if you actually go to open checkbook, there are a number of vendors that for us are just listed as GCET vendor because we are in a unique position where we have competition who would like to know the particulars of what we're doing. And that is, we really do have a need to keep certain information proprietary. So we can talk about that in executive session, and then we can come out and vote the total of the budget, which is what has to be voted in public. So if people have more they want to talk about the communications plan or discussion for, they can do that now. If we go into executive session, I will pause recording. We will have to take minutes in the executive session, and then we can come out, but we can only come out to vote on the budget for next year and then adjourn. That's the only, so if you have any other business, now would be the time to bring it up.
I think I have one. Tell me that, well, this has to do with, weren't we asking people to, pay the charge in a different manner? The finance
Yes,
charge versus, so I was wondering how that went.
Well,
People
we
called and
actually,
transferred.
we had a order and a computer problem. Essentially, our ticketing and billing system was consistently billing incorrectly by 1 penny. It was a rounding issue in the
Okay,
software,
auto-pay.
only on the auto pays. Everybody else did. So it's actually, we will be sending out tomorrow a reminder that for some people, it won't start until next month, because we had to work on the back end. They get the credit for fixing that. Because it was like, what is going on? And you can't have hundreds and hundreds of invoices that
For a
have to
penny.
be for a penny that you have to manually reconcile. It would have been a nightmare. So for auto pay people, that won't start until the 1st of February.
But I will say, we've had a lot of people switch over to e-check, so I was actually thankful that we've kind of slowed it because it allowed people to switch over. We also, we sent emails and let people know, and every time somebody would call or still is calling and paying with a credit card, we let them know that we will be doing this. And quite a few people said, how much is it? And I said 2.3%. That will be about this on your bill. And they're like, just do it. It's fine. So in verbal conversations, we're not getting the same pushback that we have seen on Facebook. We've even had comments in the communication with our customers that say, this is crazy, it's totally fine, we all get it, right? So, the understanding is there. I haven't had one person yell at me about the 2.3% at all. And I would be the one that would take that call. So.
Is that what they call ACH?
ACH is e-check. So that's, if you switch over to that, then you will not be billed the 2.3%
Only if you use
convenience fee, only if you use the credit card.
The 2 point.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that is not, we don't profit from that at all.
Mm-mm.
It is all passed 100% through to the credit card processor.
Yeah.
It's actually illegal in Massachusetts for us to. It is legal because we are, and there's a lot of literature if people are interested. But if you're just passing through a third-party processing cost, it's perfectly appropriate and acceptable. They do it on the city side and have for years. It's just recently those fees have been going up and up and up, and it got to be a sizable enough amount that we had to do something about it.
So I would accept the motion for GCET to go into executive session. GCET will vote to enter executive session for reason number 10, discuss trade secrets or confidential, competitive, sensitive, or other proprietary information. Is that someone?
So moved.
A second, and we do have to do a roll call. Jen,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Pamela,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay,
And
we are back.
We're back in
And
session.
we are
so
back.
Do we have a motion to accept the fiscal year 2026 budget?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Okay, and we're still on our second Tuesday of the month. So you will get that, and can I have these back? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, you can give it to me later. Oh, okay, okay, okay,
I wrote on yours.
all right. So then if I have those back, the only thing left to do is adjourn.
Yeah, so motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right, thank you very much. I
Thank you,
end
guys.
the